Good day. Halo is a franchise that has been going on since 2001. I got introduced to Halo when I was looking for a new console. Essentially, I couldn't really choose between Xbox and PS2, but when I was shown Halo as a demo, well, I got hooked on the Xbox. Halo was an interesting game in that it combined excellent first-person shooting, some minor open-world elements here and there, and a really tight narrative. And it's been able to maintain popularity with that for the last 20 years. And of course, we need not forget the multiplayer, although for me personally, I never played the game multiplayer outside of about 2 years when I got really into the Halo 3 multiplayer. For me, my main experiences with the Halo franchise will be the single player. I will say this though, and this might sound somewhat heretical, back when I was playing a lot of Xbox Live multiplayer around 2010 through 2012-ish, I primarily enjoyed Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 more than I did Halo 3, but let's not let that detain us at this time. Today we're looking at Halo Infinite. So, when Halo came out, it was developed by Bungie. They left the franchise after Halo Reach, and Halo 4 would be developed by 343 Industries, named after the 343 Guilty Spark character first introduced in Halo 1. 343 has been seen as relatively divisive. They've introduced a great deal of emotionalism to the overall storytelling, even though the stories were fairly emotional to begin with. There's been a lot of complaints about the depiction of Master Chief, although having actually played Halo 4, Master Chief never got as bad as Master Cheeks, and having watched the campaign for Halo 5, also Master Chief has been played fairly subtly. Now, Halo 4 was a fairly good continuation of the series. The gameplay was still recognizable from what had come before. The story was still fairly interesting. I have not played Halo 5, mainly because I do not own a next-gen console, mainly because I'm a PC gamer. If Halo 5 ever gets a PC port, I will definitely give it a try. Watch the entire game on YouTube, and I have to say, it looks okay. There was a lot of controversy about that particular game's gameplay, but it doesn't look too bad. And it can't be that bad because Halo Infinite appears, at the very least, to carry on some of its influences. So, Halo Infinite was released, and it released to a fairly mixed reception. And so I wish to chime in and give my 2 cents as a lifelong Halo player. To also increase my Halo cred, as of this recording, in about a month, I'm going to actually meet Steve Downes, the voice of Master Chief, dressed up as Master Chief, and that's going to be a very epic encounter indeed. So, Halo Infinite is an open-world Halo game. Now, Halo can do open-world. One of the most impressive levels on Halo Combat Evolved was the level Halo. It's like the game opened up and you got to go and explore different areas, and it was great, especially for 2003 when I first played it. Halo Infinite basically takes that and scales it up. You have a lot to accomplish in Halo Infinite. You have to retake forward operating bases, you have to take out high-value targets, and then there are story missions. It's pretty much your typical Far Cry-ish style of gameplay, and it works remarkably well. Halo Infinite still has a lot of the difficulty that the earlier Halos had. It can be very difficult to defeat an enemy, and it can be fairly difficult to complete objectives. And overall, I got about 19 hours out of this game. There is legitimate gameplay here. Many of the fan-favorite weapons have returned, although we have never gotten the MA5B ever again, which is really depressing. But we do have the battle rifle, and it is pretty bloody good. By far the most powerful weapon in the game is the purple sentinel beam, and you're going to be using a lot of that late game. The vehicles are still there. The Warthog is still pretty good, although, for whatever reason, after Halo 1, the Warthog became very... it's easy to turn it over, whereas the original Warthog wasn't nearly as bad about that. There are some really epic gameplay segments where you can call in a Scorpion tank and then attack an enemy position and just decimate everything. Master Chief now has a grappling hook, which I don't think would really work in real life, seeing as how Master Chief is supposed to weigh about a ton. His armor alone... Actually, Master Chief is probably closer to 750 pounds. He's wearing half a ton of armor, and Master Chief does not weigh a ton. He's not been packing away the McDonald's, but he weighs about 750 pounds. I don't think that winch mechanism on the grappling hook is going to move him around like he's Doomslayer, and Doomslayer really should weigh more than he does anyway. But with that in mind, you can also find a lot of Doom Eternal concepts in this game, most notably the upgrade system where you pick up Spartan cores. This Spartan core system, I guess, is good, but it doesn't make a lot of sense as well. Why would these Spartan cores just be lying around, and why wouldn't Master Chief leave the base with all the Spartan cores enabled? He doesn't lose them, so why doesn't he already have them? The story for this game is paper thin, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, it is so thin, it's not even funny. That's why I went ahead and used the rather salacious title of Epic Game Expansion Pack Story. This game requires you to have played Halo 5. If you have not played Halo 5, you will have absolutely, positively no idea what is going on. This game is referred to as a soft reboot, but it has a story that might as well be an expansion pack of Halo 5. It carries on some indeterminate time in the future, and the game is just showing you things. It's giving you names, and if you don't know anything about Halo, you will be completely and totally lost until you get out of a story mission, and then it's just, you know, knocking over fobs, taking out high-value targets, and that's about it. The story is there, but nothing is really explained, nothing is really accomplished. And it's really quite sad, to say the least, because Halo has always been a narrative-driven game, and for a game as epic as this one, you would think it would have an epic story, but it doesn't. When the game starts up, Master Chief gets his ass kicked by the new villain, Atriox. Atriox is a villain that was introduced in Halo Wars 2. Hope you played that game! Do you know who the created are? I don't know. Unless I played Halo 5, I got no idea who the created are. If you do not know what has come before, Atriox will mean nothing to you. It's just a big guy that throws Master Chief out of an airlock. The other thing that's kind of annoying about this game is, of course, it has to have the wimpy guy. In most modern media, you have the wimpy guy. The wimpy guy is Brohammer, as he's known. And all he does is whine and scream and complain until the very end of the game when he finally gets his balls back. But most of the time, it's just like, why is he here? He was unneeded before. Remember, in Halo 1, you had Foehammer, and she was a strong, independent woman that don't need no man. And she was always supportive of Chief and always brave, whereas Brohammer here is, of course, wimpy and annoying. And that gets into the dialogue. Master Chief still sounds pretty good. The Cortana replacement, the weapon, is also pretty okay but really annoying. The dialogue is very, shall we say, Whedonian. The grunts are by far the worst in this game, in that they don't shut up. I miss, ladies and gentlemen, when the aliens, the Foul Xenos, actually sounded alien. When they started talking, they sounded completely idiotic. One of the things that has become somewhat of a fan favorite are the grunt propaganda towers. Oh my good God, are they annoying. They're supposed to be funny, but it just reminds me of the stench of Claptrap from the Borderlands series. It's like, just shut up, please. And back to the plot. Where is it? Who's the main character? Chief? That's about it. You're trying to basically save humanity on this ring called Zeta Halo. You would know that unless you, well, paid attention, but the game doesn't come out and say that, like, the plot is to save humanity by doing things on Zeta Halo. In fact, all you're really doing for the vast majority of the game is trying to take down Atriox's lieutenant, Eshram. Why is Eshram there? What is he doing? You don't know. The game doesn't tell you. And at the end of the game, nothing is accomplished. Spoiler alert, nothing is accomplished at the end of the game. Master Chief says the now infamous line of, "We're gonna finish the fight," and the game starts up again after you beat it, which is kind of cool, but still kind of annoying, because it'd be nice if we actually accomplished something. He says, "All right, we're gonna finish the fight." But what is the fight? What happened? In this game, you're never told what happens to the UNSC. You're never told really why Cortana was defeated at some point. You're never told anything. You're not even told who the Endless is. Who's the Endless? I don't know. And in the game, you're not going to know either. So here's the spoiler part. So you start up the game, get your ass kicked by Atriox. You go and start knocking off his lieutenants throughout the game. You don't know who's taking control of the human forces. Is it Chief? If so, why is he not administering them? And then you take out Eshram at the very end of the game, and then you gotta fight another villain. That villain is the Harbinger. And the Harb-Anger is trying to release the Endless, and then she does after you kill her, and then the game is over and you gotta finish the fight. If that sounds like I'm missing something, believe me, I'm not. The only real plot details that let you have any idea what's going on are in the data pads. Those are very easy to miss, and you know what? If you pick up one and you hold the button down wrong, it doesn't play it, and it doesn't tell you which one you just picked up. With all that in mind, is the game worth buying and playing? And the answer is, if you're a Halo fan, yeah, but don't expect much from the story. It's just not there. It just doesn't. The game doesn't tell you anything, and you don't accomplish anything. The gameplay is fun. I would actually honestly recommend waiting for a price drop, because while the gameplay is fun, it's not really anything you haven't played before in a Far Cry game. Yeah, you're Master Chief, and that's cool, but is it worth the $60? Not really. For a game that had all this polish put on it, for a game that had all this money spent on it, you would think there'd be more plot than that of an expansion pack, but there isn't. For the penultimate game in the 343 Industries trilogy, it is a major letdown because there was no overarching plot. The original Halo trilogy had don't die, fight the Covenant, and don't die, essentially. 343 is, you got the Didact, then you got Cortana, now you got Eshram, and at the end of the game, the Endless, maybe? Did you stop him? I don't know. Everything that was set up at the end of Halo 5 could have led into an epic ending for the game where maybe you fight Cortana. In this game, Cortana's already dead. There's a few cool story bits, but nothing really worth being all that interested in or excited about. The sad part is, Halo Infinite would have been a good game, would have been a great game, could have even been the best of the 343 trilogy if there had just been a little more story, and with the kind of time and money put into this, you would have expected more. But with all that said, I have to say that of the 343 trilogy, Halo 4 is the most complete game. It's got the best gameplay by far, it's got the best story by far, but really 343 had no idea what they were doing, they had no idea what kind of overarching plot they wanted, and it just feels like each game is sort of its own thing, and instead of something that led one to the other, and that makes even less sense because Bungie didn't even really consider doing a Halo 2, but they made too much money and had to go and do one. And even then, Bungie had a coherent trilogy, whereas 343 simply does not. In the end, I give this game a very soft recommend. I give this game a, if it's on sale for $30, go ahead, but expect to be disappointed by the plot. And so, this has been a very impromptu review by myself, General Lotz, and I'm going to wish you good Halo 1, and good Halo 2, and good Halo 3, or whatever makes you happy. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and please consider leaving a like or a comment, as the algorithm desires your soul. And I want to thank all those fans who have supported this channel, both past and present.